And so when you're a young kid and you see this, you want to protect your mom. So my instinct wasn't like to get help, tell your mom this is how your life is. She never saw one report card of mine. She didn't know that I was going to flunk out of school. She didn't know how bad things were. I never told my mom that I'm getting called a nigger all the time. First of all, it's not cool to be bullied.
Right.
So I had two different David Gogginses. I had the David Goggins that was afraid, that was very timid and afraid. And I had the David Goggins that walked around like he was cool, that nothing hurt him. That was the fake guy.
So even as a young man, you had to create this fake identity to protect you from the brutality of the world you were living in, because you had a father who was abusive.
Right.
Your mom's fiance was murdered.
Right.
You were beaten up in school. You were in a racist school, like one of only 5 black kids in a school with 2,000 white kids in KKK territory, and you were called a nigger all your life.
Right. Well, I have to be real clear on this. What's funny about that is that I was a pretty popular kid in that school. That's the thing. When you look back on it, all you see is the racism. You don't see the popularity of the kids that liked you. The power in being able to calm your mind down and think, that's one thing I learned in my life, is that when I was in hell, I wasn't able to be in hell and be calm. Hell makes you anxious. Hell makes you want to get out of it. It's that person who has the ability to be in hell and think very calmly, very rationally about what the hell is going on. What's the truth? What's the reality? Why is my dad this way? Why are these kids calling me nigger? Why? You have to be able to piece people apart. Take it down, dissect it, and see what's going on. So back then, I didn't have those skills. I had no skills. All I saw was a whole bunch of kids like me, but I no longer saw that. All I saw was the spray painting on my car, me being called nigger. That's all I saw. My lens was this big. It was very small fucking lens, where now my lens is huge. I see everybody for who they are and what they are. So that's the one thing that changed in me, was my reality. We always paint a fucked up reality. That's not even true. It's reality what we think is true, because our lives aren't what we want it to be.
Now you took suffering and you made that a superpower.
Yes.
And one of the things that make you David Goggins, right, is your belief in suffering in order to grow.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I realized that God wasn't going to give me a get out of jail free card. And from the time I was born and to the time I was 19 years old, my life had these hurdles. I constantly hit obstacles, obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And I had to figure out how to manage suffering, how to deal with it, because it could be part of my life forever. At least that's what I thought. So in order to deal with it, I had to be able to conquer it and overcome it and deal with it, and know that in this suffering, there has to be some kind of growth. With every obstacle, I look at it as friction now. Without friction, there is no growth. You have to have friction in your life to grow. So I started looking at all these different things versus the woe is me mentality. Like, oh my God, look at my life. My life's so fucked up. I come from this fucked up family. I'm being beaten. I'm being abused mentally, physically. I started looking at it as the perfect trial ground. So I had to flip it upside down and say, okay, I'm suffering tremendously, mentally. Use this to your advantage versus your disadvantage. So that's what I did. Versus looking at it as like, oh my God, woe is me, I'm never gonna get out of here. I looked at it as, okay, hang on a second. If I can overcome this, if I can find some power in this, some way to get through this, that right there will be the fuel for the rest of my life. And so I found great strength in suffering. Great strength in it, because why? Through all of that, it started to callous my mind over the victim's mentality.
You know, and there's interesting data on that, which is why I find what you're saying so interesting. So in Salim Ismail's book, Exponential Organizations, there's this quote that blew me away. So he was studying all of these companies, and he shares the study of Google. And Google wanted to figure out what makes their best people, right? And at first, they thought it was STEM education, science, technology, engineering, math.
Right.
But then what they found, it was their best people were people who had gone through suffering.
Yes.
Suffering made people more humble. It made people more kind. Suffering made people more humble. It made people more kind. It made people more sensitive to others,
Yes.
more empathetic. So the best people at Google were young people who had gone through some suffering
Yes.
at some point, and they emerged out of that.
Right. It allows me to do this interview with you. I mean, I used to stutter so badly, I couldn't do anything. I had no self-esteem at all. Through suffering, but recognizing, you have to recognize what you've gone through. And that right there gave me pride. I realized that very few people could turn upside down what I did. I was able to turn upside down every negative thing in my life. Everything, and use it for power.
You said suffering is a true test of life.
To me, it's one of the biggest tests of life.
Now you also said that motivation is crap.
Yes.
It's about drive. I was a scared kid, and I found drive and passion.
Yes. The reason why I say motivation is crap, because a lot of people will listen to this, and they'll be motivated. They'll be fired up. They'll be so fired up it's not even funny. But what I realized in life is to have that motivation. Motivation is just kindling. It starts to fire. But that kindling, once one raindrop hits that little kindling, it's burnt out. That's motivation. So right now, I'm giving you a spark. You're giving people a spark. There's a whole bunch of sparks out here. But it has to be something that's deep down inside. So motivation is like this. If you're married and your wife is okay and your bills are paid and the kids are good and the dog's good, if everything is good, you can find some motivation. Because why? Your life is happy. It's that motherfucker that wakes up in the sewer every fucking day, has nothing to fucking go home to, has nothing. Bills aren't paid, doesn't know when the fucking next meal's coming, doesn't know shit, and still says fuck it. I am going to do what I have to do to get to where the fuck I have to go. That's the difference between motivation and drive, and then soon, obsession. Obsession makes other people, like, so when you're around somebody that's obsessed, most people don't have any fucking idea what to call you. So they call you crazy. They call you crazy because they don't understand where you're trying to go.
Right.
What the fuck you're trying to do, what you're trying to be. So to the normal person, which we're all normal, we're all very normal, what makes people different is a flip in their fucking mindset. Once they turn that mindset to a point where they no longer want to be so-called normal, that's when you start to find out that motivation is not enough. It's not enough. You have to be that person who, no matter what's going on, if you're a big-time runner, you don't care what temperature is. Like a bunch of people I run with, guess what they do every morning? Every night, they look to see what the fucking temperature is going to be tomorrow.
Right.
What's the temperature going to be? So am I going to run inside or am I going to run outside? A person that's obsessed and wants to just get there, they don't give a fuck what the temperature is. They no longer care because they know no matter what's out there, no matter if it's snowing, if it's a damn tropical storm, if it's 20 below, they're going to run. They don't care. So there's no need to waste the time to look.
Right.
I'm just going to go. And that's how you want to get your mind. It doesn't matter what the fuck's out there, what's in front of me. Because a motivated person is going to look. Because that weather is going to fucking change their motivation. Up or down. Oh, it's 70 and sunny. I'm motivated. Oh, it's 30 in a blizzard. Fuck that. I'm going to go inside. An obsessed person doesn't care. They get the fucking job done.
Because they're obsessed with what?
With being great.
Obsessed with being great.
And whatever great is.
And I love that you're sharing this because just before we started recording this, Jason Campbell, who's a host here at Mind Valley, he hosts a show called Impact at Work. He was telling us a funny story about watching your video. So Jason just ran a freaking Spartan race with 4 other people from my company in the middle of a typhoon in the Philippines. And while there were travel warnings, do not go to the Philippines, typhoon is about to hit, and many people backed out of that race, freaking Jason decided, fuck it, I'm gonna run 23 kilometers Spartan race obstacle course in the middle of a typhoon after watching you speak about this topic.
And you know the power of that? Yes, I'm not saying do that. Not. A lot of people get my words and they twist them all up and they get all confused. Don't get confused. What happened in that race for that guy? What happened? On the other end, so this whole thing about suffering, yeah, it sucks really bad.